Big Value, Big Business Podcast, episode 11.
Welcome to the Big Value, Big Business Podcast with James Lynch, where we talk with today's most successful marketing minds about getting the right message in front of the right people and getting the right people to become your customers for life. And now, your host, James Lynch.
All right, welcome back, my friends, to yet another edition of the Big Value, Big Business Podcast. I am your host, James Lynch. I am really big time super excited about our very special guest today. His name is Mr. Andrew Davis. Andrew comes to us from akadrewdavis.com. Andrew is the author of the Amazon best-selling marketing book, Brandscaping, Unleashing the Power of Partnerships. Andrew is a highly sought-after and respected content marketer, and he is also very much in demand as a dynamic keynote speaker, educating and entertaining on all things to do with marketing. So let's say hello to Andrew Davis today. Andrew, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. Thanks, James. Thanks for having me on. This is fun.
Absolutely, man. I'm so excited. You know, I really want to thank you for coming on the podcast, for one, and I'm really super excited to get your innovative perspective on, you know, how we as entrepreneurs and business owners can successfully take our business and our brand to amazingly new heights in this brand new year, 2014. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, sounds like a plan. It's the right time to do it.
Rock and roll. Cool, man. So first, can we just get a little bit of history about you? I'd like my audience to learn a little bit about who Andrew Davis is, you know, where you came from, and a little bit about your journey that brought you here to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I started my career in the television and film business. So I come at it from maybe a little bit, you know, a bizarre perspective, but I started in the television business working in local television and I produced a local call-in radio show or call-in television show, on Sunday mornings. It was a medical call-in show, so it was a bunch of hypochondriacs calling in, trying to talk to the doctor. It was called Doctors on Call, and that was a fun show to do. And then I also produced a nightly call-in talk show with a right-wing Republican host who, you know, was firing up the audience to call in and yell at him. So that was really fun. And then I moved on from there to basically produce for a lot of the cable television news networks. So CNN and Fox News was just starting up. This was in the 90s. MSNBC was just new on the scene. CNBC, CNN, Fox. That was kind of my bread and butter. And produced for the Today Show. I wrote for Charles Kuralt. If anyone's old enough to remember Charles Kuralt.
My hand is up.
Okay, good. But I learned a lot about writing great television from him. And then I got my dream job at the Jim Henson Company working with the Muppets. So I worked for the Muppets for 2 years. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And then it was the dot-com boom. It was the late 1990s, and everybody was making tons of money marketing, dot-com startups. And I decided I was making no money in television, and maybe I should take what I've learned and try to apply it in the marketing world. So I started working for a bunch of startups. And then in 2001, I founded my own marketing agency with a guy named Jim Costco, who was a journalist. So both of us had no agency or marketing experience, really. But we decided that if you just told great stories, you could inspire people to buy things they didn't know they needed. And it was a lesson I learned at the Jim Henson Company. I mean, you know, you can go on Amazon right now and search for Sesame Street branded products, and you'll find 24,000 results, you know, that's selling you plush dolls and pillowcases and sleeping bags and party supplies. And I realized that, you know, no one needed a Grover plush doll before the Sesame Street came around, and you didn't need a Bear in the Big Blue House plush doll before Bear in the Big Blue House. So can we use the same methodology, just create great content in the online world and inspire people to buy things? And that's you know, how Tippingpoint Labs took off. So in the last 11 or 12 years, I built and then sold Tippingpoint Labs and wrote Brandscaping, which is kind of a compilation of the 12 years of insight into marketing that I've compiled. And in the last year and a half or so, I've just been traveling around the world, speaking to people and trying to help everybody, inspire them to kind of reach out to a valuable audience and inspire them to buy whatever you're selling. So it's been a lot of fun and a long journey. That seemed long, Jay.
No, it's fantastic. And what a great story that you just followed your instincts and your dream. And I usually ask, have you always been an entrepreneur? And at what point was? But I mean, you brought that right in. Around 2001, you decided to go on your own, and start the Tipping Point.
Yep.
At that point in time, oftentimes aspiring entrepreneurs, they don't think that they really are good enough to teach others, or they don't think that they really have anything to offer, let alone have anything to offer people and to have them actually pay for it. Your early value propositions, what made you think that you could tell these stories and actually make a living?
Well, I think a big part of diving into the entrepreneurship world, I guess, is making sure that you're offering something that you can differentiate based on either your experience or your expertise. Mm-hmm. And, I realized that there were lots of marketing companies and agencies out there selling very traditional marketing services that claim to help you tell, your story, but no one was focusing on telling the story the audience wanted to hear. And a story that would inspire people to buy things. And I realized that, as journalists and television producers, that's what we were really good at, telling great stories that the audience would engage with. And I felt that it was pretty easy to convince potential brands that we could do a better job telling stories, given that we came from that world. Both Jim and I, we're storytellers for a living. We weren't marketers. And mm-hmm. I think I think most entrepreneurs need to ask the same question. What makes your business different than everybody else's, and how can your experience and expertise play into that instead of copying what everybody else is doing?
Yeah, and you brought up a really good point too about teaching businesses and brands to look outwardly, not telling their story, but telling the story of the person that they're trying to attract.
Yeah, I think to be successful in today's marketing landscape, you have to really think about an audience first approach. Can you create content or inspire an audience that's never thought of buying what you sell, whether it's a service or a product, to buy it? I think you can best do that by understanding who you're going after. You can't be everything to everyone. You have to be something to someone. And when you're something to someone, you're able to actually sell to them very efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. Let me ask you, I'm just going to go back in the span of 2001, that 12, 13, 14 years. Give me one of your biggest challenges that maybe, I don't know if it's, I don't get too personal, but emotional, or just something that something you got stuck with that you finally were able to break through. I'm looking for a really good Phoenix Rising. I don't know. You're pretty pumped up, dude. I don't think that you've stumbled at all in your career.
No. Look, being an entrepreneur is about stumbling lots and
Absolutely.
Figuring out what works and what doesn't. The agency business is kind of a bizarre world, and I think we were constantly trying to reinvent ourselves, and maybe that was. There were good things that came of it, but it causes lots of turmoil. And I think we would have been better off, even over the course of the 11 or 12 years we were building the agency, to just keep focused on very simple things instead of overcomplicating the services we offered in the hopes of building a bigger and better business. And we did that too many times. Kind of said, hey, look, I see an opportunity. Let's not just be, an agency that tells great stories. Let's do branding, or let's do print stuff, or let's do banner ads, or, and I think there's a tendency as entrepreneurs, you've always got another big idea. Jim Costco, who I founded Tipping Point with, was kind of my level-headed, business partner. He was always the guy that, challenged me to stay focused and keep building the business we've got instead of the business I think we could build.
keep you away from the bright, shiny objects.
Yeah, it's easy to chase the next thing you've got in your mind.
Sure.
And I think that's what makes a great entrepreneur. Can you come up with a great idea and stick with it? I've got ADD, so I'm on to the next thing 15 minutes after I came up with the last thing, and that's detrimental. So I think I learned a lot about staying focused and enthusiastic about the things I'm most passionate about instead of the thing I'm passionate about now. If that distinction is clear.
Absolutely, and you've taken it. You've left the agency and Tipping Point,
Yep.
and now you're promoting brandscaping, and for safe to say, you're a consultant and a speaker.
Yeah, sure. I don't do much consulting.
Nice,
But
lucky you.
Yeah, no, it is like, I mean, it's nice to be in the position of kind of taking on only the projects you want to take on. So I really can't complain.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'm going to get back into a little bit just overall brandscaping. It's about alliances. This is about partners. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my interpretation. Some great stories, and I love the Tony Bennett story because he's near and dear. And but can you tell us the one about the chicken whisperer?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of like marketing of old, it was all about kind of trying to tell your message to as many people as possible as often as you can. And I think in the online world, you've got this opportunity to dive really, really deep. And what's interesting, I mean, the Chicken Whisperer essentially is a guy named Andy Schneider who's really into backyard poultry, right? So he raises chickens in his backyard, and he started raising chickens in his backyard to teach his kids where eggs came from. His kids came home from school one day and said, "Dad, like, where do we get eggs? Where are they made?" And Andy was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, I got to fix this problem." So he bought some chicks and started raising them, and he wrote a book called the Chicken Whisperer's Guide to Backyard Poultry, which you can find on Amazon. And then he started a 2-hour-long radio show online on Blog Talk Radio every single day. So Monday through Thursday, actually. So 4 days a week from I think noon until 2. He does a live radio show, and it only attracts the highest value, chicken, backyard poultry enthusiasts. So he has about 20,000 people every week who listen to this.
What?
And yeah, seriously, it's 2 hours of backyard poultry talk you can't miss. He has guests on every day. He gives away some chicken coops. He's got a real following.
Love this.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So, essentially Tractor Supply is like the Walmart of the agricultural world, right? And Tractor Supply realized that that Andy Schneider and the Chicken Whisperer brand was something that in the marketplace inspired a lot of people to try backyard poultry and get into it and raise their own chickens. So what they did was they partnered with Andy Schneider and invited him to visit their stores during April and May, they call them Chick Days, where they basically have lots of baby chicks that you can then buy and raise on your own. And he comes and does like a 4-hour seminar on how to raise chickens, and he signs books, and he helps you get excited and start smart with the Chicken Whisperer. And he gets about 150 to 300 people at every one of these events, and all those people, they buy chicks. About 100 chicks are sold at every one of these events. And then when you buy a chick, you don't just buy the chick and go home. You have to buy lights to keep them warm. You have to buy chicken feed. So essentially at every store, he drives about $21,000 in new revenue every time he speaks, and that kind of partnership is really unique. It's just people interested in chickens. It's a really deep fractal node, I call it, on this tree of people that are interested in something agricultural or farming, and he's able to actually drive real revenue. So for everybody out there, every entrepreneur or small business listening, it's about really diving in and finding your own Chicken Whisperer, asking yourself, who is the audience that I can be very relevant to, that I can inspire their passion and actually sell them whatever I sell.
Yeah, I like that term, that fractal note. And I would ask you to expand on that just a little bit more, where it's so important. You and I had an offline discussion about audiences in general, and people sell themselves short or even shoot themselves in the foot when they think maybe that they're starting too small. And can you expand on how that that? Can you just explain how that starting small can grow into something like
grows big? Yeah. I mean, I think there's this concept called fractal marketing, right? So a fractal is a self-similar repeating pattern. And if you just imagine for a second a picture of a tree, right? The trunk of the tree is any online audience. Let's say you're trying to sell to people who travel, okay? So the trunk of the tree might be travel. But if you start splitting that tree up into the branches and you just crop and rotate any one branch, it then looks like the branch that you just cropped and rotated to make it look like a trunk is now a new trunk to a valuable community, right? So if you take business travel versus, let's say, leisure travel, those are two different branches. And if you want to be relevant to them, you have to talk about very different things, right? If I'm a business traveler, I don't care how much the ticket costs generally, because it's on my company, right? I want to stay at a nicer hotel. I don't care about the amenities necessarily, because I'm just going to my room, I'm sleeping, I'm getting up, and I'm leaving. I have a very different set of needs. So versus leisure travel, where I'm traveling with kids, it's a whole different way to talk to someone. So in the online world, if the deeper you go, the more valuable your content can be and the more relevant you can be. So if you're a travel agent who, is trying to get businesses to sign up with you, you're much better off not talking about, resort deals and exclusive, all-inclusive opportunities. You're actually better off talking about how you communicate with a prospective business, or how to get the best business deals for 10 people traveling to a conference, or, all of a sudden you're speaking to me, the business traveler, and I'm more relevant. Your service is more relevant to me. So, the deeper you go, the more valuable you can be, and you can actually charge a premium for that service instead of just being a travel agent for everyone. You can be a travel agent only for business travelers who travel, 10 times a year or more. Then I know it's worth paying you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, because I'm going to tell you straight out. I'm a consultant and I do some paid advertising, and I have in the travel industry just a student travel, which is a whole nother. It's so great that you use that as an example, because I totally know the difference between a leisure travel, a business travel, and then a student travel.
That's right.
Student travel, we're speaking to parents, we're speaking at one level to the student and another level to the teacher. So, makes so much sense, and that was a great example you gave me. I appreciate that.
You can even go one deeper, right? Like my wife was one of those. I know there are a lot of these people that like right after they graduate, they take a 3-month, like tour of Europe, and they do it.
Find myself.
Yes, the Find Myself journey. My wife did that.
The Purge.
That's right, the Purge. So like that, if you just went after that audience alone, that's an opportunity. The graduation gift traveler.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic.
And
I'm writing that one down.
There you go. We just made it up.
Yeah.
But it's if you can build an entire entrepreneurial business just around those people. In fact, there's probably a business in there for just people who have extended layovers. That's how deep you've got to think.
Okay, so this is the point in time where I usually ask, give us an example. But you've brought me to a real good place. We've identified, but we've niched it down to the smallest fingerprint.
Yeah.
Where do we find them?
Sure. Well, they're actually a lot easier to find than you think. Like if you go down deep enough in that travel tree, you'll end up on a node that's people who like to travel for leisure reasons and sit on the beach, but always travel with their dog. And if you start looking for destinations online where those people are having those conversations and always travel with their dog, you'll end up at a place like Fido Friendly. Okay, so if you go to FidoFriendly.com right now, you'll see that Fido Friendly is a magazine and an online community and even a Sirius satellite radio show that is just for people who travel with their dogs. It's not even for people who travel with their cats or their parakeets. It's just for people who travel with their dogs. Wow. And there are 500,000 people every week who listen to the Sirius satellite radio show on Fido Friendly. And, if you're a hotel chain or a travel agent, just targeting that specific market and understanding their needs and what they're looking for in a resort. They want a place that has doggy bags for their dogs, or even dog walkers on call. Like all of a sudden, you've got yourself a really smart node that you can market towards, and it's easy to find these people if you're looking for something specific. It's very hard if you're just looking for anyone who travels, because that's everyone, right? So searching for them online, looking for magazines that might target them, looking for LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups. There's a Facebook group for Meatloaf Sucks. It's got 300,000 members. So if you're trying to sell to people who hate Meatloaf, there's no better place to go than Facebook Sucks. I mean, Meatloaf Sucks on Facebook.
I love it. I love it. That's great. So the more special the group, oftentimes the old niche research kind of internet marketing niche research, go to a magazine rack and look at what types of specialty magazines they would have, or you can go online to a magazine seller, reseller, and look. But that's great. That's fantastic. And looking for these, and then just Googling your fingers off. That's It's great. It's great. Definitely. That is wow. That's some good stuff. Let's talk about Andrew. You are self-purported high energy. You're a high energy guy. How do you stay motivated? What any rituals for productivity, accountability? How do you set your goals, and how do you strive for them each and every day?
Oh, well, that's a great question. I mean, I guess primarily, I think I'm motivated on the revenue front. As a marketer, it's pretty easy to get sidetracked with all sorts of other wonderful metrics, right? Like you live in this data overload world where I can look at my Google Analytics and say 10,000 people read my web page yesterday versus the day before. This is great. I'm doing well. But I think at the end of the day, I'm really motivated by either seeing my revenue rise or my business's revenue rise in a concerted and, focused way. And I think that's when it's the most exciting. From a productivity standpoint, I'm a writer. So, I write every morning. I try to write from 7 to 11 a.m., although I don't always. This morning, for example, James, I got completely sidetracked. So, it's hard for me, I think, to stay focused. I think one of the best ways to stay focused and accountable, I probably learned running a business, having other people reporting to you or being part of your organization. There's no better way to make sure you're staying focused. Now that I'm kind of on my own and just speaking and writing, it's really easy for me to get sidetracked like I did this morning. And it's so great to have other people working with you on things. And if there's one thing I miss about running an agency, it's having people to work with, bounce ideas off of, because it keeps me motivated and it keeps me productive and honest. I was going to say, if you're working alone as an entrepreneur, I think one of the best things to do can be to find someone you can work with, even if they're, not working on the same project, but similar categories or similar audience or similar market or similar product even, and spend time, concerted effort, time working together to make both of your products better.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, and this is a resounding topic that I hear over and over again with entrepreneurs like yourself. Get in a mastermind or get a group of a small group of individuals where you can bounce ideas off. It doesn't have to be in the same niche, the same market, but just there's accountability. There's ideas. I mean, I've heard some guys have poured their hearts out, saying, I was in a mastermind. These guys talked me off the ledge. You know what I mean? They're cashing it in. So have you experienced that, or
Yeah. Well, I've probably seen it more now that I've been on my own. It's not something I took advantage of when I was running Tipping Point, and maybe it was because we were growing and I always had people at the organization I could bounce ideas off of. But I met a woman named Stephanie who runs a company called Coastal Windows. I mean, she sells windows and siding, and she's a contractor. She's a female contractor in a world sea full of male dominated business, and she actually created a business book club. And the only reason I found her was they chose my book to read, and she reached out and asked if I would be willing to Skype with her book club. Wow. But what's really interesting about her book club is it's become a group of like-minded women who are all entrepreneurs. Even in her category, they're all home improvement people. Someone's a designer, someone's a architect, and they all get together once a month to talk about something that they've read together, and then they also talk about the business issues they're facing. And I think she finds it inspiring reinforcement through a group of peers who are all looking for new business ideas, and even a book club, let alone a mastermind group, can be a productive way to to keep inspired and bounce your ideas off of other like-minded individuals. So it's a really interesting way to stay connected, I would say.
That's a great. I may have to get in touch with Stephanie. Let's see.
You should.
Coastal Windows.
Coastal Windows. I'll put you in touch. She's done a great job of finding great ways to partner with other people and build her business. And it's pretty neat to see her grow.
Partnering a la Brandscaping.
Yeah, she's like a master brandscaper. She's started a whole group of female-owned contracting businesses that all refer each other. It's pretty amazing.
Partnering and niching.
Yes,
owned.
That's right.
Wow.
You got it.
See how this is just all comes full circle.
Well, you know what? I have trouble thinking any other way. It's like it's ingrained in me.
My friend, you have a gift. You absolutely have a gift. Hey, one more personal thing. Talk to me about who did you read coming up or through during your career at Tipping Point, and any book? I mean, I bet you've read the Napoleon Hills and the self-improvement, self-motivating, all the best business books.
Sure.
But what really stood out in your mind, being a writer yourself, really inspired you?
Oh man. Well, the book The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell is a must-read marketing book. I mean, if you haven't read The Tipping Point, I think is still on the New York Times bestseller list, 15 years after it was first published. And it is a phenomenally wonderful read. I think it's well written. And no offense to Malcolm Gladwell, but I don't love his other books. So that book alone, I think, is a great book. On the very practical front, Getting Things Done, I think, was a mind-altering book for me. Helped me organize all my big ideas and not forget them. I don't know if you've read GTD.
No. Who's the author?
Oh my Lord, I don't remember who wrote it.
Okay.
I'll have to look it up and I'll shoot you an email.
I'll look it up. I want to say it's like Do the Work, and I'm a Pressfield fan.
That's a good book too.
Yeah, Do the Work. He did War of Art, War of Art, and he did Turning Pro. But Get Things Done.
It's David Allen.
Got it.
Just looked up for you.
Beautiful.
So Getting Things Done is a great book, and it's very practical. It's like, hey, start right now by cleaning off your desk and organizing your ideas. And I found that really helpful. And then I think somewhere in the middle is a book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I don't know if you've read that one.
No, I have not.
But that's definitely, first of all, it's a masterfully written book, and it kind of puts these beautiful and really inspiring stories about how people have changed their habits for the better, interwoven with kind of the science behind how habits work. And then at the very end, a very short chapter on how to, kind of practically understand and influence your habits so that you're making a bigger impact every day. And that book has stuck with me. And funnily enough, it's stuck with me even outside of just the habits, but finding ways to leverage that insight and understand how habits are formed to then change the way I market as a result. So it's a pretty powerful book. So those are three books, I think, all varying degrees of complexity and inspiration that have stuck with me over the years.
That's great news. The last one, how you were able to apply that to yourself as well as to your craft.
Yeah, it's a pretty The Power of Habit is really, it's like it's very big set of lessons. What triggers people to do things, and how does the mind work? And there are lessons in there that they kind of stick with you. It's the kind of thing where you're in the shower and you're thinking, wow, I shower the same way every day. What triggers me to do this? And if I was selling soap, how would I change someone's habit to pick up, I don't know, gel and, shower gel instead of a soap bar? It's pretty amazing. So it's worth a read if you're like that kind of thing.
No, yeah, you're always flipping things over. And I read this. Always ask what if.
Yes,
that's a quote of yours.
I'm a big fan of what if. I think most marketers and most entrepreneurs stop short of the big idea because they don't ask what if. And just simply challenging yourself. What if we did something different, or the world worked a different way? And I think most of the great inventions and changes in our world have come out of just asking what if enough. So that you really come up with something new and inspiring instead of just a simple and small twist on what everybody else is doing. I think those aren't necessarily earth-shattering or groundbreaking or the kinds of things that drive the biggest revenue. So don't be afraid to ask what if.
What if equals innovation?
Yeah, I think so, and
Awesome.
and inspiration for me.
Absolutely.
I think those are the big ideas and the fun.
Ooh, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Wow, this 30 minutes went way too fast.
That was 30 minutes. Oh my gosh.
Man. Listen, I'm respectful of your time. I just wanted to kind of round out and tell us all about what you're going on, where you're speaking, if you're working on any new projects, and lastly, how we can contact you. So tell us what's going on.
Sure. Well, let's see. What am I doing? So I speak about 50 days a year all around the world. I have some fun ones. I'm going to Helsinki and Europe this spring. I'm speaking at Content Marketing World with Kevin Spacey in September, which is a huge event. So anyone in the Cleveland area or interested in content marketing should look up Content Marketing World. It's going to be a phenomenal conference. And then on the writing front, I'm working on a book right now called Stake Your Claim, which is actually all about how small towns and cities are rebuilding themselves by focusing on the very niche things that make them successful. So that's an interesting piece of research I'm doing with all this travel. So that'll be fun. And if you're looking to get in touch with me, you can always find me on Twitter. I'm at TPL Drew. And you can find me at AKA Drew Davis, which you already said, online. Or if you really got excited and inspired by our chat today and you really want to talk to me, you can even call me. I'm happy to take a call to anyone listening to the podcast. So my phone number is 617-286-4009, and I'm happy to chat with you about anything you've heard today or tell you the behind-the-scenes scoop on how great James is.
Wow. And what an accessible guy. You're giving a phone number out. That's unbelievable.
Well, people still use the phone, you know.
They do. They do. And actually, when we first talked prior to this podcast, we talked on the phone.
On the telephone. It was great. It was amazing. It still works.
I didn't know how to use it. You've been so generous with your time, Andrew Davis. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me anytime.
You're very welcome, sir. And you have yourself a wonderful day and enjoy all that traveling. We look forward to hearing how everything works out. And we look forward to the new book as well.
Oh, thanks. I'll let you know when it's out.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Take care.
Bye.
All right. I hope you enjoyed our chat today with Mr. Andrew Davis. Please visit Andrew at akadrewdavis.com or on Twitter at TPLDrew. That's TPLDREW on Twitter. You can find the show notes and the highlights of this interview at bigvaluebigbusiness.com/episode 11. That's episode 11. Or just go to bigvaluebigbusiness.com and type Andrew into the search box for easy access. Hey, and while you're on the site, take a second and leave a comment for us, either about this interview or about the podcast overall, or tell me what you would like to hear us talk about. Any questions or challenges you have with your business, I would love to be able to find the expert that would have the answers you need and have them on the podcast. So talk to me at bigvaluebigbusiness.com. And lastly, I really hope we brought some big value into your day today. You take care, and I'll be talking to you real soon.
Thanks for listening to the Big Value Big Business Podcast at www.bigvaluebigbusiness.com.